Oratorio. The word itself is interesting because oratorio comes from the Latin verb orare, which means to pray, and oratorio is actually an architectural term. At least that's how it started out. In fact, the musical genre, oratorio, takes its name from a building that saw the first performances of such compositions. Basically, an oratorio is a small church or chapel, the sort of thing that was built by religious clubs or confraternities during the Counter-Reformation and slightly thereafter, for the purpose of providing people a place to assemble outside regular church services. The Oratorian movement, the building, and the resulting musical genre all originated within the context of the Counter-Reformation, and all of them arose within the Italian-speaking world. The genre, therefore, is of Italian origin. Although it is not quite so common as it once was for people to give up something for Lent, in the past, oratorio once served as a substitute for opera during Lent. Giving up opera would be a rather small sacrifice for most people today, but think about it, what it must have meant to the people of the past. It would be very much like giving up television, movies, that sort of entertainment for a period of 6 weeks. Since opera is the musical genre most like oratorio, and since you already know a great deal about opera, you can learn about the oratorio by effecting a comparison between the two of them, and we shall do so in terms of subject matter and in terms of presentation. Now please complete or prepare to copy into your notes a table that will allow you to document this comparison. You will need to know every single detail presented in that table. Let's begin by taking a look at the subject matter of these two genres. Every opera we have examined so far in this course has had a classical subject, and in fact the serious operas of the 17th and the 18th century had classical subjects as a general rule. Stories about ancient Greece and Rome, gods and goddesses, emperors, empresses, heroes, heroines, etc. The oratorio, however, had a sacred subject for the first couple centuries of its existence. In fact, since we know that the name itself comes from a word which means to pray, and that the word also refers to a small church or chapel, it should be very easy for you to remember that an oratorio generally has a religious subject. Now let's see how each of these genres is typically presented to an audience. An opera is usually presented in a staged production. That is, it uses costumes, scenery, and other things to set the scene in which the story is to unfold. Oratorios, on the other hand, are generally presented unstaged. That is, they are presented as a concert work. So having made these comparisons between opera and oratorio, we are now ready to define the genre itself. Oratorio is, by definition, an unstaged religious drama set to music. Yes, there are occasional exceptions, but they are very, very few indeed. And this definition is important to us because this definition fits Handel's oratorios. Oratorios over the centuries have been written mostly for presentation in concerts, and this certainly was the case during Handel's lifetime, and such compositions are not usually written for use in church services. Such pieces, in fact, are considered to be exceptional. Although that we saw that there were differences between opera and oratorio in terms of their typical subject matter and in their mode of presentation, the two genres use exactly the same types of music.